By the end of the 18th century, France was near bankruptcy due to their aid in the American Revolution, along with King Louis XVI spending on his life of luxury. Along with this, France was enduring a famine and drought. This especially caused unrest in the French public because they had already given most of their money to the king's high taxes. This poor state of being eventually led to rioting and looting. Louis XVI sought to find a solution to this problem by bringing together the Estates Generals.
I'm the nobility.
I am the clergy.
And I am the French public.
The Estates Generals are an assembly to represent France's clergy, nobility, and French public. The Third Estate, which is the French public, represents 98% of the population, and yet it can still be outvoted by the clergy and nobility.
We're in a super debt. Financial advisors, what are we going to do? We need tax reform.
Though a general agreement was made that France required a reform to avoid a complete economic downfall, the nobles hated the idea that they had to give up their privilege. The Third Estate, though, was on the opposite end of this discussion and fought for equal voting per person. This ends in opposition within the Estates Generals.
Okay, so I need you guys to do tax reform. Let's get a vote up in here.
I already pay taxes.
We don't want
pay
taxes.
The Third Estate vowed to not waver from their goal until the Constitution was reformed under the Tennis Court Oath. This is when they became the National Assembly.
The French public are going to start the National Assembly, and we're not going to stop until there's a constitutional change.
What a thought.
The National Assembly's demands were met, and they began working on a constitution. But during this time, violence struck the capital. On July 14, 1789, rioters stormed the Bastille for weapons and ammunition. In history, this is widely considered the true start of the French Revolution. Many more historical acts of violence followed this, yet during the time, the National Assembly finally drafted their constitution. The peace of this event didn't last long, though, and soon the assembly became divided. One part of the assembly thought the monarchy should be maintained, while the other wanted the king gone. This increasing turmoil in France caused neighboring countries to fear for themselves.
France's revolution looks like it's dangerous. They need to put their dictator king back in rule. That's as good as it's gonna get.
France took this demand from Austria and Prussia as hostile, though, and declared war. During this time of war, King Louis XVI was tried and executed for treason. With King Louis XVI dead and enemy forces invading France, Maximilien Robespierre took control. At first, the economy began stabilizing, and France seemed to be turning its bad luck around under his rule. But then he became paranoid of this situation and began the Reign of Terror. This lasted from 1793 to 1794, in which Robespierre executed over 15,000 people by guillotine. He justified these deaths with the war, but after enemy soldiers left and France became much more stable, he had no rationalization to his actions. He was executed in 1794. In 1795, after the Reign of Terror, the now mostly conservative National Convention approved a new constitution. They ruled now as the Directory. Their tyranny was immense, and by the end of their 4-year-long period of rule, they were relying solely on the military to maintain authority. They were abolished in 1799 for their awful leadership, and their final downfall marks the end of the French Revolution.
Big smile. Oh wait, you're sleeping. Smile.
Dude, you look like a peanut.
What was I supposed to say?
I'm going to say it, okay? Instead of doing...